Hello, Teacher Allen. My name is Edgar Dorantes, and I'm going to start sharing my screen for a presentation that is my task. Okay, this is a presentation of my assignment. It consists in verifying a video. I'm going to quickly verify a very short outline. Well, firstly, I'm going to have the generality of the concepts that we have through the elements of presentation and that I based on. Mhm. After that, we are going to have two extracts from YouTube videos that I found very interesting aspects dealing with authors, such as crashing and the differences in learning of children and adults, but both deal a little with the aspects that we were studying in chapter 3. So that's the reason why I'm verifying it. And then finally, I'm going back to my PowerPoint presentation to have a little reflection of what this um, represented to me. So the idea is to talk about input, interaction, and context. If you allow me, now I'm gonna have the presentation so that we can have it, okay? In which I imply my examples for um, these concepts. Okay, in this case, what we have first is the following idea. Input, interaction, and context. Okay, input, basic elements. There is a relevant element in language learning, and that is what we call input. The more the learner is exposed to the target language, the more he or she will learn. But a large quantity of input is not enough to ensure successful second language acquisition. So, for example, when a teacher provides the students elements for their understanding, the teacher in this part verifies the level, complexity of vocabulary, and the structures to use. Okay, to put it other words, I found the following example that we have over here. Essential classroom language, for example, salutations like good morning, good afternoon, uh, and farewells, such as goodbye or bye. And the use of images, mimics, and other gestures that the students can identify as a friendly environment in the classroom. As a second part, we can talk about the element of interaction. So, to deal with interaction, the main debate concerning interaction is if a receptor is enough and the extent to which being a participant in conversation necessary element for successful second language acquisition. Talking about the output, crashing, delay, and bored, as researchers stated that the individual starts with silent phases, also called silent period, in which the learning seems to have um, and seems to favor the pace and the quality of acquisition. For example, what the learner can produce in class under proper circumstances. For instance, by eliciting subjects, adjectives, auxiliary verbs, vocabulary words in order to create his or her own ideas. And I was thinking in the following aspect, like structure your own ideas using can. If we elicit the student the structure can and its uses for abilities, we can verify some ideas. I'm pointing out, for example, two images that can resemble in action verbs related to abilities. The student may say, I can swim, I can play an instrument, and also the things that is not able to do, like I can speak Japanese. Okay, finally, we have the element of the context. Okay, sorry for a little for this little aspect. Okay, let's verify. Then, relating to this aspect we mentioned, it is where the exposure to input takes place. It is where social and cultural factors are considered. There must be a distinction between formal and informal contexts. According to Krashen and Ellis and Seliger, the classroom can provide formal and natural forms of social context, where language is a, acquired as efficient communication. We have an example provided. The teacher talk is essential since it combines the importance of the type of language, the manner it is registered, and certain negotiation happens when the teacher modifies his or her addressing so students can obtain a proper registration. Over here, we can find a formal instruction for a basic English class. My proposal is about, well, this element. Mhm. When the teacher says, hello class, how are you today? How was your last weekend? Mhm. In this case, by using the thumb, picking his back um, towards the back so that it refers to the past. Today, we are going to work about, and then the teacher using both hands, for example, so that the student understand that this is the moment. Okay, so with this idea, I'm going to present a short video related to the elements of crashing. So it's a very short video, and let's verify it right away.
Idea in all of my language learning techniques and methods. So thanks so much for coming on today. It's a real honor.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
So I think a good way to get started would be to just kind of have you summarize what is your thesis? What is the kind of core contribution that you made to the language acquisition world?
Okay, my pleasure. The core contribution, I think, is that we acquire language in only one way, when we understand it. Most people call that comprehensible input. We don't acquire language when we speak. We don't acquire language when we study it. We don't acquire language when we memorize lists of verbs, et cetera, et cetera. We don't acquire language when we get corrected. All those things like grammar, vocabulary are the result of getting comprehensible input. This is how we acquire language. There are two ways of doing it. I should have said that first. You can acquire language, you can learn language. They're very, very different. Language acquisition happens subconsciously. While it's happening, you don't know it's happening. Once you're done acquiring something, you don't even know that it's there. The brain is very, very good at acquiring language. The other process is called learning. That's knowing about language. The subject and the verb are supposed to agree, etc. The brain is not very good at learning language. And we have spent most of our time in classes trying to make people consciously learn, and it's been pretty torturous. I took French in high school. It was my first language experience, and it was all grammar. Teacher was a very nice guy, but he really focused on grammar much too much. After 2 years of French, he agreed to give me a passing grade, which I didn't deserve, under the condition that I never study French in that school again, so I won't embarrass him.
Wow.
Okay, and this was a very interesting element about this author. And I have another element of understanding the process of learning. Okay, shall we see it?
As children, could they then learn languages as easily and as well? An American linguist tried to answer these questions. Dr. J. Marvin Brown's mission was for adults to become like native speakers in their second languages, to speak them correctly without effort. In charge of teaching at Thailand's premier language school, for years he tried to achieve this through study and practice. Meanwhile, he noticed that some adults had picked up languages better and faster without studying or even trying to speak. They just did things they enjoyed with people who spoke the language, and eventually they too could speak them very well.
Okay, then. In this aspect, what the intention of this very short extract was, it was to try to verify that the encounter with the language should be like natural, the same approach that children have, that they just learn it through experiences, and then that elicits like the language that that can have. So in resume, we can have some other elements for our aspect here, which is some reflections that I also had. Input, interaction, and teaching. As we teach, we also get other elements involved, like sciences, for example, culture. That means that there should be more real communication through natural context teaching, imply student satisfaction, and consider the situations that they face when they are having a second language acquisition. So this is my biography presented. I really want to thank you for your attention, and I hope that you can have a splendid day. Thank you very much for your attention.